She collapsed on divorce day, unaware that the stanger who rushed her to the hospital was a billionaire tech CEO. He called her his wife. The paramedic looked up from his clipboard, his eyes shifting between the unconscious woman on the stretcher and the well-dressed man holding her hand. "Sir, I need to ask, what is your relationship to the patient?" Alexander Kane didn't hesitate. His voice was steady despite the trembling in his chest, despite the fact that he'd met this woman only 20 minutes ago, despite the insanity of what he was about to say. "She's my wife." The paramedic nodded, making a note. "And do you know her medical history? Any allergies we should be aware of?" Alex looked down at the woman's pale face, at the tears still wet on her cheeks, at the divorce papers clutched in her lifeless hand. He knew nothing about her, not her medical history, not her favorite color, not even her middle name. But he knew the look in her eyes before she collapsed. He knew that look because he'd seen it in the mirror that very morning. It was the look of someone whose world had just ended. No known allergies. His lie came smoothly. "She's been under extreme stress lately. We both have." The paramedic's expression softened with understanding. "Divorce is hard on everyone, sir. Try not to worry. We'll take good care of her." But they weren't getting divorced. They were strangers. And in claiming her as his wife, Alexander Kane had just made a choice that would change both their lives forever. Have you ever loved someone so completely that losing them felt like losing yourself? Have you ever stood in front of the person you built your entire life around and watched them walk away like you meant nothing? Vivian Hart had. And on the day her divorce was finalized, the pain almost killed her. But what happened next? What happened when a billionaire stranger caught her mid-collapse and made a split-second decision to save her would teach both of them something profound. That sometimes you have to lose everything to find what you were always meant to have. This is a story about rock bottom, about unexpected heroes, about two shattered souls who found each other in the wreckage of their broken marriages. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will restore your faith in second chances. And if you've ever felt broken beyond repair, hit that like button right now. This story is for you. Subscribe to Mr. Hearthline Stories, because we're about to go on a journey you won't forget. The day started like any ending should. Quiet, cold, and utterly final. Vivian Hart stood outside courtroom 4C, watching the second hand on the wall clock tick toward 2:30. In 15 minutes, her marriage would officially cease to exist. 12 years reduced to signatures on legal documents. A lifetime of memories dissolved by a judge's gavel. The courthouse hallway smelled of industrial cleaner and the faint mustiness of old wood. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow. People moved past her in both directions. Lawyers in expensive suits carrying leather briefcases. Couples holding hands, some smiling, some crying. A janitor pushed a mop bucket, the wheels squeaking against the marble floor. Life continuing its relentless march forward while Vivian stood frozen, unable to make her legs carry her those final few steps. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it from her purse with trembling hands. "Where are you?" Marcus's text was characteristically brief. "Judge is waiting." Of course the judge was waiting. Marcus hated inefficiency, hated wasted time, hated anything that didn't serve his perfectly calibrated plan for success. For 12 years, Vivian had tried to be part of that plan, had made herself smaller, quieter, more convenient, and it still hadn't been enough. "Coming," she typed back. The courtroom door opened, and Marcus stepped out. Vivian's breath caught despite herself. Even now, even after everything, part of her still reacted to the sight of him. Tall, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Hair perfectly styled. The man looked like he was heading to a business meeting, not the dissolution of his marriage. "Vivienne." His voice was clipped, professional. "We need to finalize the custody arrangement before we go in." "We already finalized it." Vivian heard the tremor in her own voice and hated herself for it. Every other weekend, alternating holidays, Marcus shifted his briefcase to his other hand, not quite meeting her eyes, a tell she'd learned to recognize over the years. He was about to say something she wouldn't like. "I've been reconsidering that arrangement." Vivian's stomach dropped. "What do you mean, reconsidering?" "My schedule is demanding. You know that." He straightened his tie, still not looking at her. "And Isla is only 6, young enough that she needs stability, routine. Things I can't consistently provide right now." The words took a moment to penetrate through the fog of Vivian's anxiety. When they did, they hit like a physical blow. "You're backing out of custody." Her voice came out flat, emotionless. Not a question. A statement. "I'm being realistic." Marcus finally looked at her, and his eyes were cold, detached, like she was a problematic employee he was letting go. "You're the baker with flexible hours. I'm trying to make partner at the firm. This arrangement makes more sense for everyone involved." For everyone involved. As if their 6-year-old daughter was a business asset to be allocated for maximum efficiency. "You're abandoning her." The realization settled in Vivian's chest like a stone. "You don't just want to leave me. You want to leave both of us. Don't be dramatic." But he had the grace to look away again. "I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm just being practical about my limitations." "Your limitations." Vivian felt something crack inside her. Something that had been holding together by sheer force of will. "Marcus, she's your daughter, and she'll still be my daughter." He checked his watch, impatient now. "I'll visit when I can. Send money for her needs. But primary custody should be with you. It's better this way." Better for who? For everyone. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was carefully neutral. "Catherine agrees." Catherine. The name landed like a slap. Catherine Morrison, 24 years old, Marcus's assistant. Pretty, ambitious, completely unencumbered by things like marriage vows or basic human decency. The woman Marcus had been sleeping with for the past 8 months, while Vivian baked herself into exhaustion trying to keep their family afloat. "Catherine has opinions on how to raise my daughter." Vivian heard her voice rising and couldn't stop it. "The woman you cheated on me with thinks she gets a say in Isla's life. She's not just my assistant anymore." Marcus's jaw tightened. "We're together. Officially. And yes, we discuss our future, which includes how we allocate our time and resources." Allocate our time and resources. He was talking about their child like she was a quarterly budget item. "I begged you." The words tore out of Vivian's throat. "Do you remember, Marcus? Do you remember me on my knees in our kitchen, begging you not to leave? Begging you to go to counseling, to try, to remember what we had?" "Vivian, don't. I told you I'd change. That I'd be better, do better, be whatever you needed. And you looked at me like I was pathetic. Because you were being pathetic." The words came out sharp, cruel. Then Marcus seemed to catch himself, softening slightly. "Look, I'm sorry. That came out wrong. But Viv, we were done long before that night. We both know it. I didn't know it." Tears were streaming down Vivian's face now, hot and unstoppable. "I loved you. I built my entire life around loving you. And that was the problem." Marcus shifted his briefcase again, glancing toward the courtroom door. "You made me your whole world." It was suffocating. I needed someone who understood ambition, who had her own drive. Someone who made me feel alive instead of obligated. The casual cruelty of it stole Vivian's breath. This man had promised to love her forever, had stood in front of their families and friends and made vows. And now he was explaining why she'd never been enough, like he was giving a performance review. "Catherine is waiting downstairs." Marcus checked his watch again. "Can we please just get this over with?" Get this over with. The end of their marriage was an inconvenience on his schedule. "Fine." Vivian's voice came out hollow. "Let's get it over with." The courtroom was smaller than she'd expected. Just the judge, their lawyers, a court reporter, and a few people waiting for their own hearings. Marcus sat on one side of the table, Vivian on the other, like opposing counsel instead of two people who'd once loved each other enough to promise forever. The proceedings were mechanical, procedural. The judge, an older man with kind eyes that had probably witnessed countless heartbreaks, reviewed the documents with practiced efficiency. "This is a petition for dissolution of marriage between Marcus Andrew Langston and Vivian Marie Hart." The judge looked up. "Have you both reviewed the terms of the agreement?" "Yes, Your Honor." Marcus's voice was steady. "Yes." Vivian could barely whisper. "And there are no disputes regarding asset division, custody arrangements, or any other matters?" "The custody arrangement has been revised." Marcus's lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia Huang, slid a document across the table. "Mr. Langston is agreeable to Mrs. Hart having primary physical custody with visitation rights for the father." Visitation rights. Like Marcus was a distant relative instead of Isla's father. "Mrs. Hart, do you accept these terms?" The judge looked at Vivian with something like sympathy. She should fight. should demand that Marcus be the father Isla deserved, should scream that this wasn't fair, wasn't right, wasn't what their daughter needed. But she was so tired, so utterly exhausted from months of fighting to save a marriage that Marcus had already abandoned. Yes, the word came out broken. I accept. Very well. The judge made notes on his copy of the agreement. Do either party wish to make a statement before I finalize this dissolution? Vivian looked at Marcus, really looked at him, tried to find the man she'd fallen in love with in a bookstore 13 years ago. The man who'd smiled at her over coffee and made her feel like she was the most interesting person in the world. The man who'd proposed on a beach at sunset and promised to choose her every day for the rest of his life. That man was gone, if he'd ever really existed at all. No statement, Your Honor, Marcus said. The judge looked at Vivian. Mrs. Hart? She opened her mouth, closed it. What was there to say? That her heart was shattered? That she didn't know who she was without Marcus? That she was terrified of raising Isla alone, of rebuilding from nothing, of surviving this devastation? No statement. Her voice was barely audible. Very well. The judge picked up his gavel. By the power vested in me by the state of Washington, I hereby grant this dissolution of marriage. As of this moment, you are no longer husband and wife. You are free to remarry. The gavel came down with a sharp crack that echoed in Vivian's chest like a gunshot. It was done. 12 years. Erased. Marcus stood immediately, already pulling out his phone. His lawyer gathered the documents with brisk efficiency. Vivian sat frozen, unable to process what had just happened, unable to comprehend that the life she'd known was simply over. Vivian, Marcus paused at the door. For what it's worth, I do hope you find happiness. You deserve that. The casual kindness was worse than cruelty would have been. Like he was wishing her well after a job interview, like she hadn't given him everything she had. Then he was gone, walking out of the courtroom, out of her life, toward Catherine, who was undoubtedly waiting downstairs in her designer clothes and uncomplicated future. Mrs. Hart, her lawyer, an older man named Robert Chen, touched her shoulder gently. Do you need a moment? I need. Vivian tried to finish the sentence but couldn't. What did she need? Air, space, a time machine, a different life, a version of herself that hadn't just been discarded like she was worthless. Take your time, Robert said kindly. There's no rush. But there was a rush, because if Vivian sat in this courtroom any longer, she was going to shatter completely. She gathered her purse, her copy of the divorce decree, her trembling composure, and stood on shaking legs. Thank you for everything, she managed to say to Robert. I'm sorry it ended this way. He said it like he meant it. If you need anything, please call. Vivian nodded, not trusting herself to speak again. She walked out of the courtroom on autopilot. Left foot, right foot, keep breathing. Don't fall apart in public. Save the breakdown for later, for the privacy of her tiny apartment where Isla was with Rachel and wouldn't see her mother's world ending. The courthouse hallway was crowded now. Mid-afternoon rush. Vivian wove through the people, clutching the divorce papers to her chest. She needed to get outside, needed air that didn't smell like the death of her marriage, needed to be anywhere but here. She'd almost made it to the exit when she saw him. Marcus stood near the main doors, talking to someone. No, not someone, Catherine. The woman was even prettier in person than in the photos Vivian had found on Marcus's phone. Blonde, petite, glowing with the confidence of someone who'd won. She had her hand on Marcus's arm, laughing at something he'd said. And Marcus was smiling, actually smiling, the way he used to smile at Vivian before she became an obligation. Catherine rose on her toes and kissed Marcus's cheek. He turned, capturing her lips properly. A real kiss, tender and possessive and completely unbothered by the fact that his ex-wife might see, that his marriage had been legally dissolved for all of 10 minutes and he was already claiming his new life. Vivian's chest constricted, the hallway tilted. The divorce had been abstract until this moment. Papers and legal proceedings and a judge's gavel. But this, watching Marcus kiss another woman with the same casualness he used to kiss her, this made it real. She couldn't breathe. The air had turned thick, viscous. She tried to inhale and got nothing. Tried again. Black spots danced across her vision. The courthouse walls were closing in, the ceiling dropping, the floor rising up to meet her. Somewhere distant, she heard her own voice gasping, felt her knees buckle, felt the divorce papers slip from her hands, fluttering to the marble floor like the remnants of broken promises. "I can't." The words came out strangled. "I can't do this." The world tilted 90 degrees. Vivian reached for something to steady herself, but found only empty air. She was falling. The marble floor rushed up to meet her face. She had just enough time to think how pathetic this was, collapsing in public, like some Victorian heroine, before the darkness swallowed her whole. She didn't see the man who'd been standing near the courthouse directory. Didn't see him drop his own briefcase and sprint across the hallway. Didn't see Alexander Kane, billionaire real estate developer who'd signed his own divorce papers, barely an hour ago throw himself forward in a desperate attempt to catch a falling stranger. But Alex saw her, saw the exact moment this woman's body gave out, saw her knees buckle, saw her eyes roll back, saw her begin the long drop toward the unforgiving marble. And something in him, some instinct that overrode his own devastation, roared to life. He ran. His expensive dress shoes skidded on the polished floor. His shoulder clipped another person. He didn't care. All that mattered was reaching her before she hit the ground, before she cracked her head open, before this stranger suffered even more pain than she was already clearly drowning in. Alex dropped to his knees, sliding the last few feet like a baseball player stealing home. His arms shot out. He caught her just as she fell, cradling her head against his chest, taking the impact of their combined weight against the marble with his own body. Pain exploded through his knees, his hip. He ignored it. "I've got you." The words came out automatic, instinctive. "You're okay. I've got you." The woman was completely unconscious, dead weight in his arms. Her face was deathly pale except for the mascara-streaked tears still wet on her cheeks. Her breathing was shallow, rapid. Alex shifted her carefully, checking for obvious injuries. His hand came away from the back of her head, sticky with blood. "Someone call 911. Alex's voice came out commanding despite the tremor he felt inside. Now, a security guard was already on his radio. People crowded around, their faces a blur of concern and morbid curiosity. "Give her space." Alex snapped. "Back up." They retreated slightly. Alex adjusted his grip on the woman, trying to keep pressure on the head wound while also keeping her airway clear. Her divorce papers had scattered across the floor around them. He could see her name on one of the documents. Vivian Marie Hart. "Vivian." He said her name quietly, testing it. "Vivian, can you hear me?" No response. Her eyelids fluttered, but didn't open. "Sir, the ambulance is 3 minutes out." The security guard knelt beside them. "Do you know her? Is she family?" Alex looked at this stranger in his arms. This woman whose pain he recognized because it mirrored his own. "No, I don't know her, but I couldn't let her fall alone." That was when he noticed the couple near the doors. A man in an expensive suit looking shocked, a young blonde woman with her hand over her mouth. They were staring at the scene, but making no move to approach. The man met Alex's eyes across the hallway, and something passed between them. Guilt, maybe, or just the cold calculation of someone who'd already moved on. "You know her," Alex said to the man. It wasn't a question. The man in the suit hesitated. "That's my..." He paused. "My ex-wife. We just finalized the divorce. And you're just standing there." The words came out harder than Alex intended. "I don't." The man looked at the blonde woman beside him. "Vivian and I aren't together anymore. It's not my place." She collapsed, "And you think it's not your place?" Alex felt anger surge through him, righteous and clean, and so much easier than the grief he'd been carrying. "She's the mother of your child." He saw the hit land, saw the man flinch, but before the bastard could respond, the paramedics arrived with a stretcher and equipment and urgent questions. "Sir, can you tell us what happened?" The lead paramedic, a woman with kind eyes and efficient movements, knelt beside them. "She collapsed," Alex said, "hit her head on the way down. She's been unconscious for about 3 minutes. Breathing is shallow but steady." "Do you know her medical history?" The paramedic was already checking Vivian's pulse, her pupils. "Any conditions we should know about?" Alex opened his mouth to say no, to explain that she was a stranger, but then he looked at the ex-husband still standing by the doors, unwilling to step forward, unwilling to claim responsibility for the devastation he'd clearly caused. And Alex made a choice. "She's my wife." The lie came out smooth, certain. "No allergies that I know of. She's been under extreme stress. We both have. The paramedic nodded, making notes. Let's get her on the stretcher. Can you keep that pressure on her head wound while we move her? Yes. They worked together, careful and coordinated, lifting Vivian onto the stretcher, securing her, starting an I-5th, the practiced choreography of medical emergency. Through it all, Alex stayed close, his hand still cradling her head. We're transporting to Seattle General. The paramedic looked at Alex. You riding with us? He should say no. Should step back, let these professionals handle it, return to his own shattered life, his own empty penthouse, his own grief that he'd been drowning in all day. Instead, he heard himself say yes. They loaded Vivian into the ambulance. Alex climbed in after her, settling on the bench beside the stretcher. The paramedic closed the doors. Through the small window, Alex saw the ex-husband still standing with his girlfriend, watching them leave. The man raised one hand, a gesture that might have been farewell, or guilt, or simple acknowledgement. Alex turned away, focused on Vivian's pale face. What's her name? The paramedic asked, securing equipment. Vivian, Alex said quietly. Her name is Vivian. Vivian, I'm Sarah. You're in an ambulance. We're taking care of you. The paramedic spoke in that calm, soothing tone they must teach in medical school. Can you hear me, Vivian? Still no response. The ambulance swayed as they pulled into traffic. Sirens wailed. Alex watched the monitors tracking Vivian's vitals. Pulse elevated. Blood pressure low. He didn't know what the numbers meant, but they looked concerning. Tell me about the stress you mentioned. Sarah was taking notes. What's been going on? Alex looked at Vivian's left hand, the pale band of skin where a wedding ring used to be. The divorce papers he'd seen scattered on the courthouse floor. We're going through some difficult transitions, he said carefully. Major life changes. And her mental state recently? Any indication of self-harm or suicidal ideation? No. Alex said it firmly, then paused. At least I don't think so. We've been. He searched for words that wouldn't reveal a lie. Dealing with things separately, not communicating as well as we should. Sarah nodded sympathetically. Divorce is hard on everyone, even when it's the right choice. Is it ever the right choice? The question slipped out before Alex could stop it. Sarah looked up from her notes, her expression softening. Sometimes, when staying together would hurt more than leaving, when you've both grown into different people who can't share the same path anymore. She glanced at Vivian. But it always hurts, even when it's right. Alex thought about Elena, his wife, ex-wife. He corrected himself bitterly. The brilliant surgeon who'd looked at him this morning and said, I need someone who understands purpose beyond profit, Alex. You've built an empire but lost your soul. She'd been right. He knew she'd been right. But it didn't make the pain any less devastating. The ambulance pulled into the hospital bay. Chaos erupted. Doors flying open. Sarah and her partner wheeling Vivian out. Doctors and nurses swarming with questions and equipment. Alex followed, trying to stay out of the way while also staying close. They pushed through double doors into the emergency department. Fluorescent lights, the smell of antiseptic, the controlled urgency of medical professionals. We need a full workup. A doctor in blue scrubs was reading Sarah's notes. Head CT, blood panel, EKG. Get me your medical records. I'm pulling them now. A nurse was already at a computer terminal. What's the patient's name and date of birth? Vivian Hart, Sarah said. Date of birth is... She looked at Alex expectantly. Alex had no idea. He didn't know this woman's birthday, didn't know her medical history or her allergies or anything beyond the devastation he'd seen in her eyes before she collapsed. I don't remember, he said, the lie feeling heavier now. I'm sorry, my mind is blank. The stress. That's okay, sir. The nurse's voice was kind. We can look it up with her social security number or insurance information. Do you have her wallet? Alex pulled out his phone instead. Let me call our... He pretended to search for a contact. Our primary care doctor. They'll have everything. Actually, we found her purse. Another nurse appeared holding a small leather bag. I'll get the information from her ID. Crisis averted. For now. Mr. Hart? The doctor approached. I'm Dr. Rachel Kim. Your wife is stable, but we need to run some tests. The head injury appears minor, but we want to rule out concussion or internal bleeding. She's also showing signs of severe dehydration and exhaustion. She hasn't been sleeping. Alex said, latching onto something that felt true even if he didn't actually know. The stress has been overwhelming for both of us. I understand. Dr. Kim's expression was professionally sympathetic. We're going to take good care of her. There's a waiting room just through those doors. Someone will update you as soon as we know more. Can I stay with her? Not during the tests, I'm afraid. But after we get her stabilized and moved to a room, absolutely. Alex nodded, started to turn toward the waiting room, then paused. Dr. Kim, is she going to be okay? The doctor met his eyes. Her vital signs are good. The collapse was likely due to a combination of physical and emotional stress rather than anything life-threatening. With rest and proper care, I expect a full recovery. Thank you. Alex walked to the waiting room on autopilot, collapsed into one of the uncomfortable plastic chairs. The adrenaline that had carried him through the last hour was fading, leaving behind exhaustion and the surreal awareness of what he'd just done. He'd lied to paramedics and doctors, claimed a complete stranger as his wife, inserted himself into this woman's medical emergency with no authority and no right. He should come clean, should find a nurse, explain the situation, step back before this went any further. Instead, he pulled out his phone and stared at the screen. His last text from Elena was still there. I've moved my things out of the penthouse. My lawyer will be in touch about finalizing the financial arrangements. I wish you well, Alex. I really do. Typed with the same clinical efficiency she probably used for patient notes. No emotion, no acknowledgement of the 10 years they'd spent together. Just a business transaction being concluded. Alex had responded with a single word. Okay, what else was there to say? That he loved her? She already knew. That he'd do anything to change? She'd made clear that she didn't want him to change. She wanted him to be someone else. Entirely. That her leaving was destroying him? She had her own life to live, her own happiness to pursue, and his devastation wasn't her responsibility. So, okay. He'd signed the divorce papers in courtroom 2B at 1:15. Watched Elena walk out with Dr. James Morrison, the hospital professor she'd fallen in love with. Watched her slide into his car, lean over and kiss him. Watched them drive away toward their meaningful, purposeful, morally superior future together. Then Alex had walked out of the courthouse, fully intending to go home and figure out how to survive this. And he'd seen Vivian Hart collapse, seen a stranger in as much pain as he was, and saving her felt like saving himself. Mr. Hart? A nurse appeared in the waiting room doorway. Your wife is awake. Alex stood. The lie was getting deeper with every passing moment, with every person who called him Mr. Hart. With every second he didn't correct the misconception. He should tell the truth now, before this went any further, before he became complicit in something he couldn't take back. Instead, he followed the nurse through the emergency department doors. They'd moved Vivian to a private room. She was propped up slightly in the hospital bed, an IV in her arm, monitors beeping steadily. Her eyes were open now, confused, red-rimmed from crying but open. She looked at Alex as he entered, and he saw the exact moment recognition failed to click. Because they'd never actually met. She had no idea who he was. Hi, Alex said softly, stopping a few feet from the bed. I'm Alex, Alexander Kane. I was at the courthouse when you collapsed. Vivian's hand moved to her head, touching the bandage there gently. You caught me. It came out as a statement rather than a question. Yes. Why? The question hung in the air between them. Why had he caught her? Why had he claimed her as his wife? Why was he standing in this hospital room instead of going home to process his own divorce? Because I couldn't let you fall alone, Alex said finally. And because I know exactly what kind of pain makes a person collapse like that. Something shifted in Vivian's expression. Understanding, maybe. Recognition of shared devastation. The paramedic asked who you were. She said slowly. What did you tell them? Alex had two choices. He could tell her the truth now. Apologize for the lie. Explain that he'd simply reacted instinctively, let her take over her own medical care. Or he could double down. I told them, I'm your husband. Alex met her eyes steadily. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have lied. But your ex was standing right there and he wasn't coming forward, and I couldn't leave you with no one. Tears slipped down Vivian's cheeks. He saw, didn't he? Marcus saw me collapse. He saw. And he didn't. She couldn't finish the sentence. No. Alex said quietly. He didn't. They sat with that devastation for a moment. The husband who should have cared, who should have rushed to her side, who should have ridden in the ambulance holding her hand. And instead, he'd stood by the doors with his new girlfriend and let a stranger take responsibility. "Thank you." Vivian's voice was barely a whisper. "For catching me. For not letting me be alone. You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do." She wiped at her tears with the back of her hand, the IV tubing swaying. "You could have just kept walking. Let the paramedics handle it. Gone home to your own life. But you stayed. I didn't have anywhere else to be." The honesty slipped out before Alex could stop it. "I signed my own divorce papers an hour before I saw you fall." Vivian's eyes widened. "Today?" "This morning. 1:15. Courtroom 2B. Oh God." Fresh tears fell. "We're both freshly destroyed." Alex finished. "Yeah." A nurse bustled in, checking Vivian's IV and making notes on a tablet. "Your tests came back fine, Mrs. Hart. Mild concussion, dehydration, exhaustion. Dr. Kim wants to keep you overnight for observation, but you should be able to go home tomorrow." "Okay," Vivian said softly. The nurse smiled at Alex. "You can stay with her if you'd like. We can bring in a cot." "Thank you," Alex said. "I appreciate that." After the nurse left, Vivian looked at Alex with something between confusion and gratitude. "You don't have to stay," she said. "I'm fine now. You can go home." "Do you have someone to call?" Alex asked gently. "Someone who can be here with you." Vivian was quiet for a long moment. "Then I have a friend, Rachel. She's watching my daughter, but Rachel has to work tomorrow morning and I don't." She trailed off. "I don't really have anyone else." The admission hung heavy in the sterile air. "My parents died when I was 23. Vivian continued, her voice hollow. "Car accident. And Marcus's family never liked me. Thought I wasn't ambitious enough for their golden boy." She laughed bitterly. "Turns out they were right. They weren't right." Alex pulled the visitor's chair closer to the bed. "You are enough, Vivian. More than enough. Your ex-husband is an idiot for not seeing it. You don't even know me. I know you're a mother who just watched her daughter's father abandon her. I know you loved someone enough to be devastated by losing them. I know you collapsed from the weight of that pain." Alex leaned forward. "And I know that you deserve better than what he gave you." Fresh tears streamed down Vivian's face. "Why are you being so kind to me?" "Because someone should be. And because, selfishly, helping you is helping me survive my own nightmare." "What happened?" Vivian asked. "With your wife?" "Ex-wife." The words still tasted wrong. "Elena. She's a cardiothoracic surgeon. Brilliant, driven, saves lives for a living." Alex stared at his hands. "And I'm a real estate developer who builds luxury condos for rich people." She said I'd lost my soul chasing money. That she needed someone who understood purpose beyond profit. "Did you love her?" "Desperately." The word came out raw. "I would have done anything to keep her. Changed everything about myself. But she didn't want me to change. She wanted me to be someone else entirely." "I know that feeling." Vivian's voice was thick with tears. "Marcus said I made myself too small, that I needed to be more ambitious. But when I was ambitious, when I built my bakery into something successful, he resented that too. Said I was trying to compete with him. You couldn't win. Neither of us could." She met Alex's eyes. "Because the problem wasn't what we did or didn't do. The problem was that they'd already decided we weren't enough. The truth of it settled between them. Two people who twisted themselves into knots trying to be worthy of love that was never really there. I begged her," Alex admitted quietly. "Elena. I begged her to stay. Told her I'd work less, focus more on meaning, volunteer, donate, whatever she needed. And she looked at me with pity and said no. I begged Marcus too." Vivian's voice broke. "Got on my knees in our kitchen and begged him not to leave. Told him I'd change, be better, do anything. And he said, that's why this is so hard. Like my love was a burden." They sat in shared devastation, two strangers who understood each other more in this moment than their spouses had in years of marriage. "What do we do now?" Vivian whispered. "How do we survive this?" "One breath at a time, I guess." Alex said, 1 hour, 1 day. Just keep breathing until breathing becomes living again." "Does it become living again?" "I don't know, honestly. But maybe we can figure it out together. Vivian looked at him with red-rimmed eyes. You really want to help me? A complete stranger? You're not a stranger anymore. Alex said simply. We're two people who lost everything on the same day. That's a bond. A terrible bond, but a bond nonetheless. Vivian was quiet for a long moment. Then, the doctor said I can leave tomorrow. But I don't. My apartment is full of memories of Marcus. Everything there reminds me of the life we had. I don't know if I can go back there yet. Then don't. The words came out before Alex had fully thought them through. Come stay with me, just until you're back on your feet. Alex, that's insane. We don't even know each other. I have a penthouse with 3 guest rooms. More space than I know what to do with. Alex met her eyes. And right now, rattling around in that empty space alone sounds unbearable. So maybe we help each other. Maybe we're 2 shattered people who don't have to face the wreckage alone. Why would you do this? Because this morning, I went home to an empty penthouse and realized I couldn't remember who I was before Elena. Couldn't remember what I liked or wanted or cared about beyond making her happy. Alex's voice roughened. So maybe helping you will help me remember. Maybe having someone else to focus on will keep me from drowning in my own grief. That's the most honest thing anyone said to me in months. Vivian wiped her eyes. Okay, I'll stay. Just for a few days, until I figure things out. However long you need. But I have Isla, my daughter. She's 6. I can't just bring her, Alex said immediately. I like kids, and there's plenty of room. You don't know what you're offering. Vivian managed a watery smile. 6-year-olds are a lot of energy. I think I can handle it. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. The monitors beeped steadily. Outside the room, the hospital hummed with activity. But in here, there was peace. The fragile peace of 2 broken people who'd found each other at rock bottom. Alex, Vivian said softly. Yeah? Thank you for catching me, for not letting me hit the ground alone. Thank you for giving me a reason to keep standing. If this story is already touching your heart, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that like button. Show me this message of hope resonates with you. Drop a comment telling me, have you ever felt broken beyond repair? Have you ever wondered if you'd survive losing the person you built your life around? Because Vivian and Alex are about to show us that sometimes rock bottom is actually the foundation for rebuilding. And don't forget to subscribe to Mr. Hearthline Stories and hit that notification bell. Because this journey is just beginning, and you won't want to miss what happens next. The hospital discharged Vivian the next afternoon with instructions to rest, avoid stress, and follow up with her primary care doctor in a week. The avoid stress part made both Alex and Vivian laugh bitterly, as if stress was something they could simply choose to eliminate from their current reality. Alex brought his car around to the patient pickup area, a sleek black Mercedes that probably cost more than Vivian's yearly income. She hesitated before getting in, suddenly aware of the economic disparity between them. This is too much, she said, standing on the curb. You've already done too much. Alex came around and opened the passenger door. Get in, Vivian. You have a concussion. You're not taking the bus. She got in. They drove through Seattle in relative silence. Rain streaked the windows, typical for late October. The city looked gray and cold, matching Vivian's internal landscape perfectly. Tell me about Isla, Alex said, breaking the quiet. What does she like? What makes her happy? Vivian felt her expression soften, the way it always did when she thought about her daughter. She's obsessed with the ocean, wants to be a marine biologist, knows more about sea turtles than most adults. She smiled, and she loves ballet, takes classes twice a week. Marcus always said she needed to choose one or the other, that she couldn't be both a scientist and a dancer. Why not? That's what I said. But Marcus has very rigid ideas about success, about focus. He thought encouraging multiple interests would make her scattered, or well-rounded. Alex suggested, exactly. What does Isla know about the divorce? That Daddy and I aren't going to be married anymore. That she'll have 2 homes instead of 1. Vivian's voice tightened. But she doesn't know that Marcus barely wants custody, that he's already choosing his new life over her. How do I tell a 6-year-old that her father is abandoning her? Maybe you don't. Not yet. Alex glanced at her. Maybe you just show her that she's loved completely by the parent who chose to stay. They pulled into an underground parking garage. Alex's building was in downtown Seattle. glass and steel and understated wealth, the kind of place Vivian would never have entered if not for this surreal situation. The elevator ride to the penthouse was smooth and silent. Vivian caught her reflection in the mirrored walls. She looked terrible. Hair tangled, hospital bracelet still on her wrist, the bandage on her head visible under her hair. She looked like someone who'd been through a trauma, which, she supposed, she had. The elevator opened directly into Alex's penthouse. Vivian stepped out and stopped. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Elliott Bay. The Space Needle was visible in the distance. The furniture was all clean lines and expensive fabrics. Art that probably belonged in museums hung on the walls. Everything was perfectly arranged, professionally designed, utterly beautiful, and completely devoid of life. "It's like a showroom," Vivian said, before she could stop herself. "I know." Alex set his keys on the entry table. Elena had very specific tastes. She designed everything. Now she's gone, and I'm left with her vision of what our life should have looked like. "You could change it." "To what?" Alex looked around like he was seeing the space for the first time. "I don't even know what I like anymore. Every choice I made for 10 years was filtered through what would make Elena happy. We're more alike than I thought," Vivian said quietly. "Come on, I'll show you the guest room." He led her down a hallway. The guest room was larger than Vivian's entire apartment. King-size bed, private bathroom, a sitting area with a view of the water. It was stunning and impersonal in equal measure. "Make yourself at home," Alex said. "The bathroom is stocked with toiletries. There are clothes in the closet, Elena's things that she left behind. You're about the same size. Help yourself to whatever you need. Alex, I can't wear your ex-wife's clothes. She doesn't want them. Trust me, she made that very clear." Alex's smile was tight. "And you need something clean to wear. It's practical." After he left, Vivian sat on the edge of the bed and tried to process her new reality. Yesterday morning she'd been married. Yesterday afternoon she'd been divorced. Last night she'd been in the hospital with a concussion. And now she was living in a billionaire's penthouse, wearing his ex-wife's abandoned clothes. If someone had told her a week ago that this would be her life, she would have laughed. Now, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Her phone buzzed. "Rachel, how are you feeling?" The text read, "Isla's asking when you're coming to get her. I told her you had a little accident, but you're okay now." Vivian typed back, "I'm okay. Long story, but I'm staying with a friend for a few days. Can you bring Isla to this address?" She sent Alex's building information, waited for the questions she knew were coming. "A friend? Viv, what's going on? Are you safe?" "I'm safe. I promise. I'll explain everything when you get here." 30 minutes later, there was a knock on the door. Alex answered it. Vivian heard Rachel's voice, tight with protective concern. "Who are you?" "Alexander Kane." "You must be Rachel. Please, come in." "Where's Vivian?" "I'm not leaving Isla until I see her." "I'm here." Vivian emerged from the guest room, and then she heard the sweetest sound in the world. "Mama!" Isla came running. 6 years old, dark braids flying, backpack bouncing on her shoulders. Vivian dropped to her knees and caught her daughter in a fierce embrace. "Hi, baby girl," she whispered, breathing in the familiar scent of Isla's strawberry shampoo. "Hi, my love. Rachel said you got hurt." Isla pulled back, her brown eyes, Marcus's eyes, wide with worry. "Are you okay?" "I'm okay now." Vivian smoothed her daughter's hair back. "I just needed to see you." Isla's gaze drifted past her mother to Alex standing in the doorway. "Who's that?" "That's Mr. Kane," Vivian said carefully. "He helped Mama when she wasn't feeling well. We're going to stay with him for a little while, just until Mama feels better." "Like a sleepover?" Isla's face brightened. "Exactly like that." Alex knelt down to Isla's level, his expression gentle. "You can call me Alex, and I have a very important question for you." Isla tilted her head, curious. "Do you like hot chocolate?" A huge grin split her face. "With marshmallows? Is there any other kind?" Vivian watched Alex lead Isla toward the kitchen, chatting easily about the proper marshmallow to chocolate ratio, and felt something crack open in her chest. Rachel touched her arm. "Viv, what is happening? Who is this guy?" "Honestly," Vivian kept her voice low, "I have no idea. But right now, he feels like the only solid thing in my life. He's a stranger. So was Marcus once." Vivian turned to her friend. "And I spent 12 years with him. building a life, raising a daughter, believing in forever. And he threw it all away like it meant nothing. She watched Alex lift Isla onto a bar stool, both of them laughing. At least with Alex, I know exactly where I stand. Two broken people helping each other survive. That's more honest than anything I had with my husband, ex-husband. Rachel corrected gently. Right, ex-husband. They joined Alex and Isla in the kitchen. Alex had somehow produced an impressive spread. Fresh fruit, cheese, crackers, and yes, perfect hot chocolate with exactly the right number of marshmallows. We decided snacks were necessary. Alex explained, his eyes twinkling. Isla is very wise about these things. Very wise. Isla agreed solemnly around a mouthful of cheese. Vivian slid onto a bar stool beside her daughter, accepting the mug of hot chocolate Alex offered. It was perfect. Rich, not too sweet, warming her from the inside out. After Rachel left, still worried but somewhat reassured, Vivian found herself relaxing into the afternoon. Alex showed Isla his collection of marine biology books. I went through a phase, he said sheepishly, pulling down a thick volume about sea turtles. Isla's eyes went wide. You have books about the ocean? Lots of them. For the next 2 hours, Vivian dozed on the couch while Alex patiently answered Isla's endless questions about marine life. She woke occasionally to the sound of her daughter's laughter and Alex's gentle explanations. Each time, she felt that same crack in her chest widen, the space where she'd kept all her fear and grief and exhaustion. And in that widening crack, something new was trying to grow. Hope, maybe. Or just the possibility of surviving this. When evening came, Alex insisted on ordering dinner. I can cook, Vivian protested. You have a concussion. You're resting. He pulled out his phone. What does Isla like? Pizza? Ty. Pizza. Isla bounced on the couch cushions. With extra cheese. Over pizza and Isla's animated descriptions of her favorite sea creatures, Vivian felt herself begin to thaw. The tight knot of anxiety that had lived in her chest for months loosened slightly. Here, in this stranger's home, with her daughter chattering happily and this broken man treating them both with such careful kindness, she felt safe. It terrified her, because she'd felt safe with Marcus once. And look how that had ended. After dinner, Vivian put Isla to bed in the guest room. She read 3 stories and sang the lullaby her grandmother had taught her. The same lullaby she'd sung every night since Isla was born. Some things remained constant even when everything else fell apart. When she finally emerged, she found Alex on the balcony, staring out at the city lights reflected in the rain-dark water. She's asleep, Vivian said softly, joining him. She's wonderful, Alex said. You should be proud. I am. Vivian wrapped her arms around herself against the cool air. I just wish Marcus could see what he's giving up. His loss is someone else's gain. She looked at Alex sharply, but his expression was unreadable. I don't know how to do this. Vivian admitted. How to be alone. How to raise a daughter by myself. How to trust anyone again after everything. You don't have to know. Alex turned to face her fully. You just have to survive, one day at a time, 1 hour at a time if necessary. Is that what you're doing? Every minute. His smile was sad, and on the really bad days, every breath. They stood in the rain-washed night, 2 people who had lost everything, and Vivian felt the first fragile thread of connection weave between them. Not romantic, not yet. Just the recognition of shared pain and the possibility of shared healing. Thank you, she whispered, for catching me when I fell. Thank you for letting me, Alex replied, for letting me be useful again. Neither of them knew it yet, but standing there on that balcony they had already begun the slow, painful, beautiful work of building something new from the ashes of what they'd lost. And in the morning, when Isla woke them both far too early, demanding pancakes and another marine biology book, they would take the next step together, one day at a time, one breath at a time, until breathing became living again. 3 days turned into a week turned into 2. Vivian kept telling herself it was temporary, just until she found a new place, just until she processed the divorce, just until she was strong enough to face the world alone. But temporary was starting to feel dangerously permanent. Alex gave them space but was always present, making breakfast before heading to work, returning for dinner, helping Isla with homework at the massive dining table that had probably never been used for anything so domestic before. He never pushed, never demanded anything, just existed alongside them, with a quiet constancy that Vivian had never experienced with Marcus. It was the little things that undid her. The way Alex learned without being told that Vivian took her tea with honey and lemon. The way he started keeping strawberry yogurt in the fridge because Isla loved it. The way he'd leave sticky notes with terrible jokes on the bathroom mirror to make them smile. The way he seemed to understand that healing wasn't linear, that some days Vivian could barely get out of bed, and other days she felt almost normal. On the hard days, he'd simply appear with tea and his quiet presence, never offering empty platitudes, never telling her it would get better, just sitting with her in the grief until she could breathe again. Marcus never sat with her in anything. Marcus had solutions and strategies and impatience for emotions that couldn't be scheduled and managed. One morning, Vivian woke to the smell of something burning. She rushed to the kitchen to find Alex staring at a pan of charred eggs like they were a puzzle he couldn't solve. "What are you doing?" she asked, trying not to laugh. "Attempting scrambled eggs." He gestured at the pan where the eggs were definitely beyond salvaging. Emphasis on attempting. "This is why I stick to toast." Vivian couldn't help but smile. "Move over. You don't have to." "I know." She gently nudged him aside, taking over the stove. "Move." She scraped the burnt eggs into the trash and started fresh. Alex watched her work, leaning against the counter with his coffee. "You're good at this," he observed. "My grandmother taught me." Vivian cracked eggs into the pan with practiced efficiency. She said cooking was meditation. You can't worry about your problems when you're focused on not burning the eggs. She added butter, salt, fresh herbs she'd found in the fridge. Apparently she was wrong about that part. I've worried through thousands of meals. What do you worry about? Everything. Vivian whisked the eggs gently. Whether I'm a good mother, whether the bakery will survive without me there every day, whether I'll ever trust anyone again, whether staying here is taking advantage of your kindness. You're not taking advantage. I'm living in your home rent-free. You're keeping me from rattling around this empty penthouse alone, drowning in my own thoughts, Alex said quietly. That's worth more than rent. Vivian plated the eggs, adding toast and fruit. They sat at the kitchen island together, and for a while they just ate in companionable silence. These are incredible. Alex made a sound of appreciation, way better than my charcoal attempts. The bar was pretty low. He laughed. The sound surprised them both. When had they last laughed? When had joy been something other than a memory? After breakfast, Alex cleared his throat. I was thinking of taking a walk. The rain stopped for once. Want to join me? Fresh air is supposed to be good for healing concussions. Vivian hesitated. The idea of existing beyond the penthouse felt overwhelming. But Alex's expression was hopeful without being pushy, and something about that made her nod. Okay, just for a little while. Isla was still asleep, exhausted from staying up late reading about dolphins. They left a note and slipped out quietly. The building had a private garden on the roof. Vivian hadn't even known it existed. Stone pathways wound through beds of late-blooming roses, past a small fountain under trellises covered in climbing vines. The city spread out around them, but up here it felt removed, peaceful. Elena designed this garden, Alex said quietly as they walked. Spent hours planning every detail. Now it's just here, growing without her. Do you hate it? Vivian asked. Because it reminds you of her? I thought I would. Alex touched a rose bloom gently. But they're still beautiful, even if she's gone. Maybe that's the lesson. Beautiful things don't stop being beautiful just because the person who created them walked away. Vivian thought about that, about the life growing inside her chest, the fragile shoots of hope she was afraid to acknowledge, created with the ashes of her marriage but somehow still worth nurturing. You think that applies to everything? She asked. I think it has to. Alex looked at her. Otherwise, how do we survive? Your daughter is going to grow up beautiful and strong, Vivian, even if Marcus is too blind to see it. Even if he walks away completely, that doesn't change her worth. Tears pricked Vivian's eyes. I haven't told him yet about how little he wants to be involved. Every time Isla asks when she'll see Daddy again, I make excuses. But eventually she's going to realize he's choosing not to be there. Then you'll help her understand that his choices don't define her value. Alex's voice was firm. You'll show her what real love looks like. Consistent, present, choosing her every single day. What if I'm not enough? You are. He said it with such certainty that Vivian almost believed him. They continued walking. Alex told her about the garden, about how he'd bought this building thinking he'd fill it with family, about dreams that felt foolish now but had seemed so real at the time. Vivian told him about her childhood, about her grandmother who'd immigrated from Lyon with nothing but recipes and determination, about dreams she'd abandoned when she married Marcus. "What did you want to be?" Alex asked. Before him, a teacher. Vivian smiled sadly. "I wanted to work with kids, help them love reading the way my grandmother helped me love cooking. But Marcus thought it was impractical, said teachers didn't make enough money, that I should focus on supporting his career instead. And you listened to him." "I loved him." Vivian's voice was quiet. "I thought love meant sacrifice. Turned out I was just making myself smaller to fit into his life." "You're not small, Vivian." Alex stopped walking, turning to face her. "You're just compressed, like a spring waiting to expand again." The metaphor was odd, but somehow perfect. Vivian looked at this man who barely knew her but somehow saw her more clearly than Marcus ever had. "You're different from what I expected," she said. "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Someone smoother, more put together." "You're kind of a mess." "I'm a complete mess," he agreed cheerfully. "But I'm a well-intentioned mess." They walked until Vivienne grew tired, then headed back to the penthouse. As they approached the door, she impulsively reached out and squeezed his hand. "Thank you for the walk, for everything." Alex squeezed back. "Thank you for not burning the eggs." That night, Vivian had another nightmare about Marcus. She woke gasping, tears streaming down her face, the ghost of his cold dismissal haunting her. She was drowning in the memory of begging him to stay, of the pity in his eyes, of the casual cruelty of him explaining why she'd never been enough. Before she could spiral completely into the darkness, there was a soft knock on her door. "Vivian?" Alex's voice was gentle. "You okay?" She considered lying, saying she was fine, but she was so tired of pretending. "No." Her voice cracked. Alex entered carrying 2 mugs of tea. He set one on her nightstand and settled into the chair near the window. He didn't ask what was wrong, didn't offer empty platitudes, just sat there in the darkness, a steady presence. "Tell me about your mom," Vivian said finally. She needed to think about anything other than her own pain. Alex's face softened. She was amazing. Strong, funny, always knew exactly what to say to make things better. "After my dad died in the accident, he was driving when they got hit by a drunk driver. She held our family together, even though she was shattered inside." "How did she die?" "Heart gave out a few years later. The doctor said it was a medical condition, but I think she died of a broken heart." Alex's voice roughened. "She loved my dad so much. Losing him broke something in her that never healed. I'm sorry." "Me too." He sipped his tea. "But she taught me something important before she died. She said that love, real love, doesn't destroy you. It makes you bigger, stronger, more yourself. If you're getting smaller, if you're losing pieces of who you are, that's not love. That's something else." Vivian absorbed his words. "Marcus made me small. Elena made me small too. I twisted myself into knots, trying to be what she wanted, until I didn't recognize myself anymore." Alex looked at her. "We gave our love to people who didn't know how to hold it. That's their failure, not ours. Then why does it hurt so much? Because we loved anyway, even when they didn't deserve it." He finished his tea. "But just because we loved the wrong people doesn't mean we loved wrong. It means we're capable of the kind of love that someone else will be grateful for someday." "You really believe that?" "I have to. Otherwise, what's the point of surviving this?" They sat in comfortable silence until Vivienne felt her eyelids growing heavy. Alex stood to leave, but she stopped him. "Will you stay?" she asked. "Just until I fall asleep. I don't want to be alone with my thoughts." "Of course." Alex settled back into the chair. Vivian closed her eyes. His presence was an anchor, keeping her from drifting into the dark waters of her grief. As sleep claimed her, she heard him humming softly. An old lullaby his mother had sung to him. The melody wrapped around her like safety. This became their pattern. Nightmares would wake her, and Alex would appear with tea and presents. Some nights they talked. Some nights they sat in silence. But she was never alone. During the days, they coexisted with increasing ease. Alex began working from home more often, setting up an office in one of the spare rooms. Vivian started venturing into other parts of the penthouse, slowly claiming space, making the sterile showroom feel more like a home. One afternoon, she found him in a storage room surrounded by painting supplies. "What are you doing?" she asked, trying to remember how to do this. He gestured at a blank canvas propped on an easel. "I used to paint before Elena told me it was a waste of time. Figured it was time to reclaim old hobbies. Can I watch? Only if you don't judge." Vivian pulled up a stool as Alex began mixing colors. His strokes were hesitant at first, then grew more confident. What emerged was abstract but beautiful, swirls of blue and gray that somehow captured the feeling of grief without being literal. "It's perfect," Vivian breathed. "It's terrible." Alex stepped back, studying his work. "But it's mine." "That's enough for now." Inspired, Vivian started reading again, something she'd abandoned during her marriage when Marcus complained about her wasting time with books. She'd curl up in the window seat of the guest room, losing herself in stories of people whose problems made hers feel less insurmountable. Alex would find her there, so absorbed she didn't hear him approach. He'd leave fresh tea and snacks without disturbing her. She'd discover them later with a note, "For healing. Also because you forgot to eat lunch again." These small kindnesses accumulated, built on each other, created a foundation of something Vivian was afraid to name. 3 weeks after moving in, Alex made her a proposal. "I have an idea," he said one evening after Isla was asleep, "and I want you to hear me out before you say no." Vivian set down her book, wary. "Okay. My company is renovating the waterfront district." Alex leaned forward, intense in the way he got when discussing business. "There's a corner space that would be perfect for a bakery. Better location than your current place. More foot traffic. Room to expand." Vivian's heart stuttered. "Alex, I can't." "Hear me out." He held up a hand. "I'm not offering charity. This is business. You create incredible pastries. I tried those eclairs you made yesterday and nearly wept. The building needs an anchor tenant. You need a fresh start. We negotiate a fair lease. You build your business. Everyone wins. Why would you do this? Because you deserve it. Simple, matter of fact. Because your ex-husband made you feel small, and I want to help you remember you're extraordinary. You barely know me. I know you're a single mother rebuilding her life with grace and strength. I know you make your daughter laugh every day, even when you're heartbroken. I know you create art with flour and sugar, and people should experience that art." He paused. "And I know that helping you helps me feel human again." The honesty undid her completely. "Okay," Vivian whispered. "Okay, let's do it." They toured the space the next week. Isla came too, racing through the empty storefront imagining where everything would go. Vivian could see it. Gleaming cases full of pastries, small tables by the windows, the smell of butter and sugar filling the air. Her grandmother's dream finally realized. Not because Marcus allowed it, but because she chose it. "Mama, this is perfect." Isla spun in circles. "Can we have cupcakes shaped like fish?" "We can have whatever you want, baby girl." Alex watched them with an expression Vivian couldn't quite read. When their eyes met across the empty space, something passed between them. Acknowledgement of the life they were building, brick by brick, moment by moment. Over the next few weeks, Vivian threw herself into planning, designing the layout, sourcing equipment, creating a menu that honored her grandmother's recipes while adding her own innovations. Alex helped with permits and contractors and all the bureaucratic nightmares that came with opening a business, but he never took over, never made her feel like this was his project. He facilitated and stepped back, trusted her vision. It was intoxicating, being trusted, being seen as competent, being treated like a partner instead of a supporting character in someone else's story. One evening, Vivian was sketching logo ideas at the dining table when Isla wandered over. "Mama, can I ask you something?" "Of course, baby." Isla climbed into her lap, her small face serious. "Are we going to live here forever?" Vivian's heart clenched. "I don't know, sweetheart." "Why?" "Because I like it here." Isla played with the hem of her shirt. "Alex is nice. He reads me stories and doesn't tell me I have to choose between science and dancing. And you smile more." "Do I?" "Yeah, you smile like you used to. Before." Isla trailed off. "Before the divorce. Before Marcus left. Before their world fell apart." "Is it okay if I like it here?" Ela asked in a small voice. "Even though Daddy isn't here?" "Oh, baby." Vivian hugged her daughter tight. "It's absolutely okay. You're allowed to be happy." You're allowed to like the people who are kind to you, even if it makes Daddy sad. Your happiness is not responsible for Daddy's feelings. Vivian pulled back so she could look Isla in the eyes. You understand that? Whatever Daddy feels about our life now, that's his choice. Your job is to be a kid, to love science and dancing, to eat too much ice cream and laugh at silly jokes. Let the adults worry about the complicated stuff. Okay. Isla hugged her again. I love you, Mama. I love you too, baby girl. More than all the stars. After Isla went to bed, Vivian found Alex in his usual spot on the balcony. The Seattle skyline glittered in the distance. Elliott Bay reflected the city lights like scattered diamonds. She asked if we're staying forever. Vivian said, joining him at the railing. What did you tell her? That I don't know. Vivian wrapped her arms around herself. Alex, I need to start looking for a place. We can't impose on you indefinitely. You're not imposing. We've been here almost a month. And? Alex turned to face her. Has it been terrible? Have you been miserable? No. The opposite, actually. That's the problem. Why is being happy a problem? Because, Vivian struggled to articulate the fear. Because I got comfortable with Marcus, too. I built my whole world around him. And when he left, I had nothing. No identity, no foundation, just emptiness. She met Alex's eyes. I can't do that again. Can't make another person my whole world. I'm not asking you to, Alex said quietly. I'm asking you to consider that maybe we're building something different here. Not you orbiting my life or me orbiting yours, but two people creating a shared space where we both get to be whole. That sounds like a fantasy. Maybe. Or maybe it sounds like something worth trying. What if it doesn't work? What if we ruin this by wanting more than we should? What if we ruin it by being too afraid to try? The question hung between them. Vivian looked at this man who'd caught her when she fell, who'd given her space to heal, who'd helped her rebuild without ever making her feel like she owed him, who'd treated her daughter with more patience and kindness than her own father showed. I'm scared, she admitted. Me too. Of what? Of losing this. Alex gestured between them. Whatever this is. You and Isla, you've made this empty penthouse feel like a home for the first time. Made me remember what it's like to have purpose beyond work. Made me feel human again. He took a breath. I'm terrified of going back to the emptiness. Then don't. The words came out before Vivian could stop them. Don't go back. Stay here. Stay in this. Stay with us. Vivian, I mean it. She stepped closer. I don't know what this is. I don't know if it's just shared trauma or if it's something real, but I know I don't want to lose it either. What are you saying? I'm saying stay. I'm saying let's see where this goes. I'm saying I'm terrified, but maybe that means it matters. Alex reached out, cupping her face gently. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. The touch sent electricity through her. I'm falling in love with you, Vivian. The words came out rough, urgent. I know it's too soon. I know we're both still healing. But I needed you to know. This isn't just about convenience or shared grief anymore. It's about you, about who you are, about wanting to be part of your life, not because you need saving, but because being with you makes me want to be better. Tears streamed down Vivian's face. I'm falling in love with you too, and it terrifies me. Me too. But maybe, she leaned into his touch, maybe that's how we know it's real, because it scares us enough to be careful with it. Alex leaned down slowly, giving her time to pull away, to change her mind, to retreat into safety. But Vivian didn't pull away. She rose on her toes, meeting him halfway. The kiss was soft, tentative, full of promise and fear and hope all tangled together. When they broke apart, both were crying. We're quite a mess. Vivian laughed through her tears. The best kind of mess. Alex pressed his forehead to hers. So, is that a yes? You'll stay? We'll stay. For now became permanent that night. Not with grand declarations or moving trucks, but with a kiss on a balcony in the quiet. Acknowledgement that temporary had always been a lie. They told themselves to feel safer. The next morning, Isla found them making breakfast together. Alex at the stove attempting pancakes. Vivian beside him providing guidance and laughing when he inevitably made a mess. They were standing close, closer than before, and when Alex passed Vivian the spatula, his hand lingered on hers. Isla watched this with the sharp perception of children. "Are you and Alex boyfriend and girlfriend now?" she asked over her cereal. Vivian and Alex exchanged glances. "Would that be okay with you?" Vivian asked carefully. "If Alex and I were more than friends?" Isla considered this seriously. "Will he still read me marine biology books?" "Absolutely," Alex said. "And help with my science projects? That's basically mandatory. And not tell me I have to choose between things I love?" "Never." "Then yeah." Isla grinned. "It's okay." She paused. "Does this mean we really get to stay forever?" "Forever is a long time," Vivian said. "But yes, baby, we get to stay." Isla cheered, then went back to her cereal like this was just another Tuesday. Children were remarkable that way, adaptable, resilient, ready to embrace joy when the adults finally got out of their own way. Over the next weeks, Vivian and Alex navigated their new dynamic carefully. They were building something, but neither wanted to rush. Both had scars from marriages that had imploded. Both were wary of repeating old patterns. So they went slow, held hands, stole kisses when Isla wasn't watching, had long conversations late at night about what they wanted, what they feared, what they needed from each other, learning to be partners in the real sense, not one person sacrificing for another, but two people choosing each other while remaining themselves. The bakery, which Vivian named Vivian's in honor of her grandmother, opened on a crisp November morning. The line wrapped around the block. Food bloggers raved. Local news covered it. Within a month, Vivian had to hire additional staff to keep up with demand. Marcus sent a text. "Saw the news about your bakery. Congratulations. Guess you didn't need me after all." Vivian stared at the message for a long time. Part of her wanted to respond, to tell him that no, she hadn't needed him, that she'd been strong all along and he just made her forget it, to rub her success in his face. Instead, she deleted the message and blocked his number. He didn't deserve her energy, didn't deserve space in her new life. He was the past, and she was finally building a future. If this story is moving you, if you're seeing yourself in Vivian's journey, I need you to do something. Drop a comment below telling me about a time you chose yourself, a time you walked away from someone who made you small, a time you rebuilt from nothing. Your story matters. And don't forget to share this video with someone who needs to hear that they're stronger than they think. Subscribe to Mr. Hearthline Stories because we're heading into the part where everything gets tested, where the past comes back demanding attention, and you won't want to miss how Vivian and Alex handle it. Life was good. Better than good. Vivian's bakery was thriving. Isla was flourishing in school. Alex had started a community development project, using his wealth to create affordable housing instead of luxury condos. He'd found meaning beyond profit, purpose beyond success. And then, on a Tuesday in March, Marcus showed up. Vivian was picking Isla up from school when she saw him, leaning against his car in the parking lot. Same expensive suit, same perfect hair, but there was something different, something desperate in his eyes that made Vivian's stomach drop. "Viv," he straightened when he saw her. "We need to talk. I have nothing to say to you." Vivian moved to walk past him, but he stepped into her path. "Please, just 5 minutes." "No, I made a mistake." The words came out rushed. "The biggest mistake of my life." Vivian's heart stuttered. This was the moment she'd fantasized about for months after he left. Marcus realizing what he'd lost. Marcus wanting her back. But standing here now, with 6 months of healing behind her, she felt nothing but exhaustion. "Move, Marcus. Just listen." He ran a hand through his hair, that tell of stress she used to know so well. "Catherine and it fell apart. She wasn't who I thought she was. Took half my money and left when I wouldn't give her more. And I'd been trying to move on, trying to rebuild, but nothing works, because I threw away the best thing in my life." "Mama." Isla came running out of the school building, then stopped short when she saw her father. "Daddy?" Marcus's face softened. "Hey, princess." But Isla didn't run to him. She ran to Vivian, pressing close to her mother's side. The rejection was instinctive. 6 months of broken promises and missed weekends had taught her that her father was unreliable. "What are you doing here?" Isla's voice was small. "I came to see you." Marcus glanced at Vivian. "And to talk to your mama about us being together again." "We're not getting back together," Vivian said firmly. "We're divorced, Marcus. You made that choice. I made a mistake." He was pleading now, all his polished composure cracking. I was stupid and selfish, but I know what I lost now. Please, Viv, give me another chance. Let me be the husband you needed, the father Isla deserves. For a moment, Vivian wavered. This was her family, the father of her child, the man she'd built a life with. Shouldn't she at least consider it? For Isla's sake? Then she thought of Alex, his steady presence, his quiet kindness, the way he looked at her like she was worth treasuring, the way he treated Isla like she mattered without needing to be asked. No. Vivian's voice was quiet but certain. You don't get to break us and then decide you want us back when it's convenient. We're not your backup plan. I'm not asking to be. You walked away from your daughter, Marcus. Vivian felt anger surge. You looked at that beautiful little girl and decided your ambition mattered more. Whatever you're feeling right now, regret or loneliness or fear, it's not love. It's just you realizing you made a bad trade. That's not fair. Life isn't fair. You taught me that. Vivian took Isla's hand. Don't contact us again, unless it's about formal custody arrangements. We're done. She walked away with her head high, Isla's small hand tight in hers, and didn't look back. In the car, Isla was quiet for a long time. Then, "Are you sad, Mama?" "No, baby. I'm not sad. Daddy said he wants us back." "I know. But you said no." "I did." Isla was quiet again. Then, good. Her voice was fierce. "He made you cry a lot." "Alex doesn't make you cry. Alex makes me happy." "Me too." Isla leaned her head against the window. "Can we go home now? I want to show Alex my spelling test. I got 100%. "Of course, baby girl. Let's go home." But when they got home, Vivian couldn't settle. Marcus's words kept echoing in her head. "I made a mistake. I want you back. I want our family." Part of her, the part that had built a life around him, that had believed in forever, wanted to believe him, wanted to give Isla her father back, wanted the fantasy of the whole family. Alex found her on the balcony after Isla went to bed. He didn't say anything, just stood beside her, waiting. "Marcus came to the school today," Vivian said finally. "He wants me back." Alex's hand tightened on the railing. "What did you tell him?" "I told him no." Relief washed over Alex's face, but he controlled it quickly. "How do you feel?" "Confused." Vivian turned to face him. "I said no in the moment, but now I'm wondering if I was being selfish, if I should have at least considered it for Isla's sake. Do you want him back?" "No, yes, I don't know." Vivian pressed her hands to her face. "I don't want him back. I know that. But part of me keeps thinking about Isla deserving both parents, about whether I have the right to keep her from her father. He kept himself from her." Alex's voice was gentle but firm. "You're not doing that. He is. But what if he's really changed? What if he really means it this time? Then he'll prove it through consistent action over time, not through one desperate plea in a parking lot." Alex took her hands. "Vivian, I'm not going to tell you what to do. This is your life, your choice, your daughter. But I will say this, Isla deserves a father who chooses her every day, not one who only wants her when his other options fall apart. I know. And you deserve a partner who sees you as essential, not one who only realizes your value after losing you. I know that too. So, what do you need?" Alex's thumbs traced circles on her hands. "Do you need space to figure this out? Do you need time to think? I'll give you whatever you need." That was the difference, Vivian realized. Marcus told her what to do. Alex asked what she needed. "I need to see him one more time," she said. "I need to look him in the eye and know for certain that saying no is the right choice." Pain flickered across Alex's face, but he nodded. "Okay. When?" "Tomorrow. Get it over with." "Do you want me to come with you?" "No. This is something I need to do alone." Alex pulled her into his arms. "Whatever happens, whatever you decide, know that you're strong enough to handle it, with or without me." "I don't want it to be without you," Vivian whispered against his chest. "Then come back to me." That night, Alex slept in the guest room, giving Vivian space. She lay awake staring at the ceiling, trying to untangle her feelings. She loved Alex. She was certain of that. But did she love him because he was right for her, or because he'd saved her when she was drowning? And if Marcus had really changed, didn't she owe it to Isla to at least try? The questions tormented her through the endless night. In the morning, she texted Marcus, "Meet me at Kerry Park, noon." He responded immediately, "Thank you. I'll be there." Vivian dropped Isla at school and drove to the park with her heart in her throat. She arrived early, needing time to compose herself. The view from Kerry Park was stunning. The Space Needle, the city skyline, Elliott Bay stretching out to the Olympics. But Vivian barely saw it. All her focus was on the conversation ahead. Marcus arrived exactly at noon. Always punctual, always controlled. Except today, he looked disheveled, worried, more human than she'd seen him in years. "Thank you for coming," he said, stopping a few feet away. "I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't." Vivian crossed her arms. "You said you changed. Prove it. Tell me why you really want me back." Marcus seemed taken aback by her directness. "Because I love you. Because I made a terrible mistake. Because—" "No." Vivian cut him off. "Tell me the truth. Not what you think I want to hear. The actual truth." He faltered, and in that moment, she saw it. The calculation behind his eyes. The desperation that had nothing to do with love. "The woman you left me for," Vivian said slowly. "She took everything, didn't she? Your money, your status. And now you're alone, and you thought coming back to me would solve your problems. That's not. Don't lie to me. Not anymore." She stepped closer. "You don't love me, Marcus. You never really did. You loved having someone who worshipped you, who made you feel important. But actual love, partnership, seeing me as an equal, you never wanted that." Marcus's face hardened. "And you think that developer does? He's just using you, Vivian. Once the novelty wears off, once you're not a damsel in distress anymore, he'll leave too. Maybe he will." The possibility hurt, but she said it anyway. "But at least he sees me. Actually sees me. When was the last time you asked me what I wanted, Marcus? What I dreamed about? What made me happy?" He couldn't answer. Didn't even try. "That's what I thought." Tears streamed down Vivian's face, but they weren't tears of heartbreak anymore. They were tears of clarity. "I spent 12 years making myself smaller for you, giving up my dreams, pretending to be whoever you needed me to be. And it was never enough because you didn't want a partner. You wanted an audience. And what about Isla?" Marcus's voice turned cold. "You're going to keep my daughter from me because your feelings are hurt? I'm not keeping her from you." Vivian's voice was steel. "You are. You barely wanted custody. You've missed every scheduled weekend for 6 months. You told me yourself that being a father was too demanding for your schedule. Don't you dare act like I'm the one keeping you away. I made mistakes, but I'm here now, ready to be a father, ready to be a husband, ready to make this right. You're desperate. There's a difference." Vivian turned to walk away, but Marcus grabbed her arm. "You can't do this." His grip tightened. "I won't let you. Let me go, Marcus. I'll fight you in court. I'll get custody. I'll destroy everything you've built with him." Vivian looked at his hand on her arm, then into his eyes, and she saw what she'd been blind to for so long. He was small, petty, desperate. Not the man she'd built up in her mind, but just another broken person trying to fill his own emptiness by taking from others. "Do it." She pulled her arm free. "Take me to court. Fight for custody. Do whatever you think you need to do. But you'll lose, Marcus, because I have proof of everything. Your abandonment. Your signed consent to minimal custody. Your own words admitting you didn't want the responsibility. So go ahead and try. Spend whatever money you have left on lawyers. It won't change the truth." "What truth?" "The truth that you're not capable of the kind of love Isla needs. Or that I deserve." She stepped back. "Goodbye, Marcus. I hope you figure out what you're really looking for. But it's not me, and it's not my daughter." She walked away while he stood there, stunned. With each step she felt lighter. The ghost of who she'd been, the woman who begged and pleaded and made herself small, died there in Kerry Park. In her place stood someone new, someone stronger, someone who finally knew her worth. Vivian drove straight to Alex's office. Didn't call ahead, just showed up. His assistant tried to stop her, but Vivian walked past. She found Alex at his desk, staring at architectural plans but clearly not seeing them. He looked up when she entered, and the hope and fear in his eyes nearly broke her. "It's over," she said. "Really, truly over." What happened? I saw him clearly for the first time, saw what he really wanted. And it wasn't me, or Isla. It was just his own ego. She crossed to his desk. He threatened to fight us in court. To make our lives difficult. Michael tensed. What did you say? I told him to try. That we have proof of everything. That he'd lose. She reached for his hand. Was I wrong? Can he actually fight the custody arrangement? My lawyer says no. The custody agreement is final. His minimal involvement is documented. He has no legal standing. Alex's voice softened. You're safe, Vivian. Both of you are safe. I'm sorry. The words burst out of her. I'm so sorry for doubting us. For even considering. For making you sleep in the guest room. Stop. Alex pulled her around the desk, into his arms. You needed to be sure. I understand that. And I'd rather you be sure now than wonder forever. I am sure. She pulled back to look at him. I choose you, Alex. Not because Marcus doesn't want me, but because I want you. Because what we have is real. Because you see me and love me anyway. I love you because of who you are, not in spite of it. Vivian kissed him, poured everything she felt into it. When they broke apart, Alex was smiling. So, no more guest room? No more guest room? No more doubts? Well, Vivian managed a shaky laugh. I'm human. I'll probably have doubts sometimes, but I'll talk to you about them instead of running. That's all I ask. They stood in his office, holding each other, and Vivian felt peace settle in her chest. This was right. This was real. This was worth fighting for. That evening, they sat Isla down together. Baby girl. Vivian took her daughter's hands. I need to tell you something about Daddy. Isla's face became wary. Is he going away again? Yeah, sweetheart, he is. And this time, it's for good. To Vivian's surprise, Isla didn't cry. She just nodded, like she'd been expecting this. That's okay, Isla said simply. I have Alex now. He's better at being a dad anyway. Alex's eyes filled with tears. Can I? He cleared his throat. Can I hug you, Isla? Isla launched herself at him. Alex caught her, holding her tight. And Vivian watched this man who owed them nothing fall completely in love with her daughter. Can I call you Dad? Isla asked, muffled against Alex's chest. Alex looked at Vivian. She nodded, crying openly now. I would be honored, Alex said. So honored, Isla. They sat on the couch, the three of them, tangled together. A family. Not the family Vivian had planned, but the family she'd built from the ashes of her broken dreams. And it was more than she'd ever hoped for. 6 months later, on a perfect September evening, Alex proposed. Not on the balcony where they'd first kissed, but in the garden on the roof. The same garden Elena had designed, but that now belonged to their story. Isla was there, holding the ring box and barely containing her excitement. Alex knelt on the stone pathway surrounded by roses. Vivian Hart. He took her hands. I know we've both been through hell. I know we're both still healing. But these months with you have been the happiest of my life. You've taught me that broken hearts can love again. That endings can become beginnings. That the right person doesn't make you smaller. They help you become who you were always meant to be. He pulled out the ring. Simple. Elegant. Chosen specifically for her. Let me love you the way you deserve. Not because you need saving, but because loving you makes me whole. Marry me. Build a life with me. Let me be Isla's father officially. Let me be your partner in everything. Vivian was crying too hard to speak at first. She nodded, then found her voice. Yes. She pulled him to his feet, laughing through her tears. Yes, I'll marry you. Isla cheered. Can I be the flower girl? You can be whatever you want, baby girl. They married 2 months later in that same garden. A small ceremony. Just people who mattered. Isla walked down the aisle first, scattering rose petals with solemn concentration. Then Vivian, wearing a simple cream dress and carrying her grandmother's recipe book instead of flowers. When they exchanged vows, neither spoke of forever. Forever was a promise people made and broke too easily. Instead, they promised truth, presence, choosing each other every day. Promises that felt real because they'd already been keeping them. I promise to see you, Alex said, his voice thick with emotion. Really see you, and to love everything I see. I promise to trust you, Vivian replied, to believe in what we're building. and to never make myself small again. The small crowd cheered when they kissed. Isla made a sound that was either approval or disgust. Either way, it made everyone laugh. At the reception in the penthouse that was finally a home, Vivian's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, expecting congratulations from a friend who couldn't make it. Instead, it was from an unknown number. I saw the photos. You look happy. I'm glad. Below it, another message appeared. I lost everything, Vivian. The house is gone. The money is gone. Catherine took it all and disappeared. I have nothing left. I made a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life was letting you go. Vivian stared at the messages, waiting to feel something. Vindication. Satisfaction. Pity. Instead, she felt only a distant sadness for the man Marcus had been, and the life he'd wasted. She started to type her response, then stopped. What was there to say? She deleted the messages without responding and blocked the number. Marcus was her past. Alex and Isla were her present and future. He didn't deserve her energy, didn't deserve space in her new life. Alex appeared at her side, wrapping an arm around her waist. You okay? Better than okay. She leaned into him. I'm home. Across town, Marcus sat alone in a cramped apartment that smelled of mildew and regret. The photos of Vivian's wedding had appeared on social media through a mutual acquaintance's account. She looked radiant, happy, complete. Everything he'd destroyed was now rebuilt without him. His phone sat silent. No one called anymore. His friends had disappeared when the money did. His family had given up on him after one too many broken promises. Even Catherine had vanished the moment his accounts emptied. He thought about showing up at Vivian's house, about demanding to see Isla, about fighting for some scrap of the life he'd thrown away. But he knew the truth. He'd signed away his rights. He had no legal standing. And more importantly, he had no moral standing either. He'd made his choices. Now he got to live with them. Marcus looked around the empty apartment, at the furniture he'd bought secondhand, at the walls that needed painting, at the life that stretched ahead of him, lonely and small. This was his throne now, built on pride and selfishness and the arrogant belief that he could discard people and suffer no consequences. His kingdom of nothing. Meanwhile, back at the penthouse, Vivian and Alex danced in the living room while friends cheered. Isla watched from Alex's sister's lap, her eyes following her parents with fascination. Thank you, Vivian whispered against Alex's chest, for catching me, for staying, for loving us. Thank you for letting me. He kissed the top of her head. Thank you for teaching me that broken things can be beautiful. As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, Alex carried a sleeping Isla up to her room. Vivian followed, watching as he laid their daughter gently in her bed. Not his biological child, but his in every way that mattered. He's going to ask about Marcus someday, Vivian said quietly as they stood in Isla's doorway. I know. Alex tucked a blanket around Isla, and when he does, we'll tell him the truth. That his biological father wasn't ready to be a parent, but that he has a father who chose him, who loves him, who will always be there. You think that'll be enough? I think love is always enough. Not the selfish kind, not the conditional kind, but real love. He pulled Vivian close, the kind that stays. They stood together, watching Isla sleep, two people who had collapsed under the weight of their broken hearts and somehow found the strength to rebuild. Not separately, but together. Not by forgetting their pain, but by transforming it into something beautiful. Vivian thought about the woman she'd been on those courthouse steps. Devastated, certain her life was over, unable to imagine a future without Marcus. That woman had died there, and in her place had risen someone stronger, someone who knew her worth, someone who understood that the right kind of love doesn't make you smaller. It makes you whole. What are you thinking? Alex asked. That I was so focused on keeping Marcus that I couldn't see I was losing myself. She turned in his arms. Thank you for helping me find her again. She was always there. You just needed space to remember. They went downstairs hand in hand. Husband and wife, partners in every sense. The penthouse that had been a mausoleum of lost dreams was now filled with the sound of their laughter, their love, their life. Outside, the city glittered in the darkness. The same city where they'd both signed divorce papers on the same day. The same courthouse where Vivian had collapsed and Alex had caught her. The same streets they'd driven through, two strangers bound by shared devastation. But that was the prologue. This, right here, was the story. The real story. The one about two broken people who refused to let their shattered hearts define them, who chose each other, who built something beautiful from the wreckage. Years would pass. Isla would grow up knowing only Alex as her father. She would have Alex's kindness and Vivian's determination, and she would never doubt for a moment that she was loved completely. Marcus would remain alone, his attempts to rebuild his life constantly sabotaged by his own selfishness. Some people learn from their mistakes. Others are doomed to repeat them. But that was his story, his consequence, his choice. Vivian and Alex's story was just beginning, and it would be written not in grand gestures or fairy tale endings, but in the quiet moments of choosing each other, in the hard conversations and the easy laughter, in the tears and the triumphs, in the ordinary magic of two people who refused to let their broken hearts define them. Vivian had loved a man who didn't deserve her, but now she was loved by a man who did, and that made all the difference. If this story touched your heart, if Vivian and Alex's journey reminded you that your worst day doesn't have to define you, I need you to do something. Hit that like button right now. Show me this message of hope and second chances resonated with you. Drop a comment telling me what lesson you're taking away from this story. Is it about knowing your worth? About the difference between real love and convenient love? About choosing yourself even when it's terrifying? Your voice matters, and here's my final ask. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe they're going through a divorce. Maybe they're healing from betrayal. Maybe they just need to remember that they're worthy of real love. This story could be exactly what they need today. Subscribe to Mr. Hearthline Stories and hit that notification bell, because we're building a community of people who believe in second chances, in growth, in the power of choosing yourself. We tell stories that remind you that life can surprise you, that heartbreak doesn't have to be the end, that love can find you when you're not even looking. Remember this, the person who catches you when you fall doesn't have to be a billionaire. They just have to be someone who sees your worth when you've forgotten it yourself, someone who stays when things are hard, someone who chooses you every single day. Vivian Hart collapsed on courthouse steps, certain her life was over, but she was wrong. Her life was just beginning. Because sometimes you have to lose everything to find what you were always meant to have. Sometimes rock bottom is actually the foundation for rebuilding, and sometimes the stranger who catches you becomes the love that saves you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to Vivian and Alex's story. Until next time, this is Mr. Hearthline, reminding you that your best chapter might be the one you haven't written yet. Your heart might be broken, but you're not broken. And the right person, the one who really sees you, is worth waiting for. Keep choosing yourself. Keep believing in possibility. Keep trusting that healing is real. Because you deserve a love that makes you bigger, not smaller. You deserve a partner who chooses you, not one who tolerates you. You deserve everything Vivian found and more. And it's out there, waiting for you. You just have to be brave enough to believe you're worthy of it. Until next time, stay strong, stay hopeful, and remember, you're exactly where you need to be.